June 7th, 2026, 02:34 a.m., Senkaku Islands, called Diaoyu by China, tiny uninhabited rocks, East China Sea, 120 nautical miles northeast of Taiwan, 200 miles west of Okinawa. Total land area 2.7 square miles, 8 islands, 5 rocks, 3 reefs. Worthless economically, priceless strategically. Japan administers since 1895, China claims since 1971, Taiwan also claims because complexity, rich fishing grounds nearby, potential undersea oil, mostly just national pride, territorial disputes over uninhabited rocks that matter because sovereignty matters, and conceding anything means conceding everything, and nationalism requires defending every inch, even worthless inches. At 02:34 a.m., 3 Chinese amphibious assault ships approach largest island Uatsuri, Type 071 landing platform docks. Each carries 4 landing craft. Each craft carries 50 Marines, total 600 Marines aboard, but only 200 deploy. 200 is occupation force, 600 is invasion force. Difference matters diplomatically. Occupation can be temporary, invasion is permanent. China choosing carefully, choosing occupation, choosing reversibility, choosing off-ramp while choosing confrontation. That's sophisticated, that's calculated, that's prepared for multiple outcomes. Welcome to Navy Force, where uninhabited rocks become flashpoints, and 89 miles determine if carrier air wings launch strikes or alliances collapse and Third World War starts over islands nobody lives on. Chinese Marines land 02:47 a.m., no resistance, no Japanese presence, no defenders, just rocks and birds. Marines establish perimeter, raise People's Liberation Army flag, largest flag possible, visible from aircraft, visible from satellites, visible from ships, statement, symbol, sovereignty assertion. Marines deploy anti-aircraft missiles. HQ-17, short-range air defense, effective against helicopters and low-flying aircraft, creates no-fly zone, denies Japanese aerial assault, smart move. Professional setup, this was rehearsed, practiced, prepared, not impulsive action, calculated operation, strategic gambit. China betting. Japan won't respond militarily, betting America won't intervene directly. Betting international community will urge restraint. Betting time works in China's favor. Every hour of occupation is hour closer to permanent possession. That's land grab strategy. That's territorial conquest through fait accompli. That's 21st century imperialism. Japan detects landing immediately. Radar tracks amphibious ships. Satellites photograph Marines. Coast Guard observes from distance. Japan Coast Guard has 12 vessels in region, armed patrol boats, but outgunned by Chinese warships. Can't challenge landing, can't prevent occupation, can only watch. Report, wait for orders. Orders come from Tokyo. Prime Minister awakened, briefed, shocked, furious, helpless. China occupied Senkaku, Japanese territory, international crisis. Alliance test, Prime Minister calls U.S. President, direct line, emergency consultation, conversation brief, tense, urgent. China has invaded Senkaku. We need American support. Treaty of Mutual Cooperation and Security applies. Will you honor commitment? President hesitates. Not because unwilling, because implications are enormous. Honoring treaty means confronting China militarily, means potential shooting war, means risk of escalation, means possibility of nuclear confrontation over uninhabited rocks, over symbolic sovereignty, over alliance credibility that matters more than rocks themselves. President answers carefully. We stand with Japan. Treaty commitments are ironclad. We're deploying forces, consulting with allies, urging China to withdraw, but military action requires careful consideration. Give us 12 hours. 12 hours is eternity. 12 hours is China consolidating. 12 hours is pressure building. 12 hours is time for mistakes. Question for viewers: China occupies Japanese territory. U.S. has defense treaty. What should response be? A. Immediate airstrikes. B. Naval blockade. C. Diplomatic solution. Comment your strategic choice. Navy Force believes alliances are tested when honoring them is costly and avoiding them is tempting, and choosing correctly determines if alliances survive or die. USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group, position 89 nautical miles southeast, conducting exercises with Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. Perfect timing or suspicious timing, depending on perspective. China claims exercise was provocation, justifying occupation. Japan claims occupation was planned regardless. Truth unknowable. Timing convenient for both narratives. Reagan receives orders, turn toward Senkaku, launch reconnaissance aircraft, prepare strike package but hold fire, weapons tight, no provocation, no escalation, just presence, just capability demonstration. Just reminder that America has options, and options include overwhelming force. Carrier Air Wing begins preparations. FA-18 Super Hornets armed with JDAM bombs. EA-18G Growlers ready for electronic warfare. E-2D Hawkeyes airborne for surveillance. Complete strike capability. Missing only authorization. Missing only target list. Missing only willingness to use force. Those are big missing pieces. On Navy Force, we understand military capability without political will is just expensive metal floating pointlessly. Weapons matter only when leaders authorize their use. Subscribe to Navy Force if you believe hardware is useless without resolve and alliances fail when capability exists but commitment doesn't. Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force mobilizes completely. Izumo-class helicopter destroyer JS Izumo turns towards Senkaku, can carry F-35B fighters, currently carries helicopters only. Insufficient for retaking island, sufficient for blockade, for containment, for pressure. 4 Congo-class destroyers join. Aegis-equipped advanced air defense, can shoot down Chinese aircraft, can defend against missiles, cannot conduct amphibious assault. That's Japan's problem. Maritime Self-Defense Force excellent at defense, inadequate for offense. Constitutional restrictions limit military operations. Article 9 forbids offensive warfare. Retaking occupied territory is offensive by definition. Legal complications abound, political constraints matter, military capability exists. Authorization, questionable, that's frustration of modern Japan. Capable military, restricted employment, dependent on America for operations beyond pure defense. That dependency being tested now, that restriction being challenged now, that alliance being evaluated now. Chinese Foreign Ministry statement released 04:17 a.m. Beijing time. People's Liberation Army has conducted defensive operations on Chinese territory Diaoyu Islands. This is sovereign right. This is territorial administration. This is correcting historical injustice. Japan's illegal occupation has ended. International community must recognize Chinese sovereignty. We warn external forces not to interfere. Any intervention will face serious consequences. Statement clear. Position firm. Warning explicit. China claiming sovereignty, daring Japan to respond, threatening America to stay out, calculated messaging, deliberate escalation, strategic brinkmanship. China betting opponents won't fight, won't risk war, won't challenge occupation. If bet succeeds, China keeps islands. If bet fails, China has exit strategy, can withdraw claiming training exercise, can negotiate claiming misunderstanding, can retreat claiming victory anyway. That's authoritarian advantage. Control domestic narrative, declare success regardless. Population believes official story. International opinion becomes irrelevant. That's why authoritarian regimes take risks democracies avoid. At hour 8, Japan prepares counterattack. Not immediate assault, gradual pressure, first cut supply lines. Japanese submarines positioned between China and Senkaku. 3 Soryu-class diesel-electric submarines. Silent, deadly, effective. Can sink any Chinese vessel attempting resupply, can blockade occupation force, can starve them out. That's strategy, that's patience, that's non-kinetic pressure. Chinese Marines on island have supplies for 72 hours. After that, need resupply. After that, become vulnerable. After that, occupation becomes unsustainable. Japan, betting time reverses advantage. China, betting reinforcement arrives first. Race begins. Clock ticking, pressure mounting. Both sides committed, both sides calculating, both sides hoping other blinks first. Chinese Air Force increases presence. J-20 stealth fighters patrol. 24 aircraft. Continuous coverage, protecting Marines, deterring attack, demonstrating capability. Message to Japan. Message to America. Message to region. China can defend occupation, can sustain presence, can escalate if needed. Japan responds with F-35A fighters, 8 aircraft. Stealth versus stealth. F-35 versus J-20. Never tested in combat. Nobody knows which is superior. Both sides confident, both sides uncertain, both sides avoiding confrontation. Because first engagement reveals capabilities, reveals weaknesses, reveals reality. Better to maintain ambiguity, better to deter through uncertainty, better to avoid proving, which is actually better. So fighters maintain separation, maintain distance, maintain tension. No shooting, just positioning, just demonstrating, just psychological warfare through aviation. At hour 18 international pressure peaks, United Nations Security Council emergency session, resolution condemning occupation, demanding withdrawal, calling for negotiations, routine diplomatic theater, China vetoes, Russia abstains, resolution fails, international law proves meaningless without enforcement, without penalty, without consequence. China occupies territory, world condemns. China ignores. Pattern familiar, pattern ineffective, pattern encouraging further aggression. Because if no consequence for Senkaku, why not try Ryukyu Islands next? Why not challenge Okinawa? Why not test whether American treaties mean anything anywhere? That's slippery slope. That's escalatory logic. That's trajectory toward major conflict unless someone draws line, unless someone enforces consequences, unless someone makes occupation costly enough to deter next attempt. Nobody doing that. Everyone urging restraint, everyone preferring negotiations, everyone avoiding confrontation. That's rational, that's reasonable, that's recipe for incremental surrender. Japanese Prime Minister addresses nation hour 24, televised speech, serious tone, grave demeanor. Citizens of Japan, China has occupied our territory. This is unacceptable. This is intolerable. This is act of aggression requiring response, but response must be measured, must be appropriate, must avoid war. We are working with allies, working with America, working for peaceful resolution. But make no mistake, Senkaku is Japanese territory. We will defend it. We will reclaim it. We will not accept occupation. China must withdraw or face consequences. Strong words, forceful rhetoric, vague consequences. That's problem. Threats without specifics are suggestions. Ultimatums without deadlines are wishes. China hears speech, notes vagueness, continues occupation, bets. Japan bluffing, bets America restraining Japan, bets correctly, for now. At hour 36, Chinese buildup continues. Additional vessels arrive, destroyers, frigates, supply ships, creating defensive perimeter, creating supply chain, creating permanent presence. That's concerning. That's escalatory. That's sign China betting on keeping islands. Japan responds by mobilizing reserve forces, calling up retired military personnel, activating defense plans, public preparations for potential conflict. That's concerning. That's escalatory. That's sign Japan considering forceful response. Both sides escalating, both sides preparing, both sides hoping other backs down, nobody backing down. Recipe for accident, recipe for miscalculation, recipe for war nobody wants, but everybody approaches. USS Ronald Reagan launches show of force, 40 aircraft, formation flight over Senkaku. High altitude, non-threatening, but unmistakable. American capability, American presence, American commitment, message to China, message to Japan, message to world, America involved, America capable, America committed. Whether America will fight remains unclear, but America will support ally, will demonstrate presence, will maintain options. That's something, not everything, but something. China notes flyover, doesn't respond militarily, responds diplomatically, condemns American interference, warns against provocation, threatens consequences, standard rhetoric, predictable responses, neither side changing position, neither side backing down, stalemate continues. What did Navy force learn from ongoing crisis? First, territorial disputes resist resolution. Senkaku occupied 36 hours, no solution emerging. Both sides committed, both sides unyielding, both sides preparing for long standoff. Second, military presence deters but doesn't resolve. USS Reagan nearby, doesn't change Chinese occupation, doesn't enable Japanese counter-landing, just prevents further escalation. That's valuable but insufficient. Third, alliance commitments are complicated. U.S. supports Japan, but how far? Military action, economic pressure, diplomatic support. Ambiguity is strategy, also weakness. Allies need certainty. Fourth, international law is optional. Security Council resolution failed, international condemnation ignored, rules-based order relies on enforcement. Without enforcement rules are suggestions. Fifth time favors occupier. Every hour China holds islands is hour closer to permanent possession. Psychological advantage, political advantage, strategic advantage. Japan needs rapid response. Getting slow deliberation, that's problem. At hour 48, breakthrough attempted back-channel negotiations. China willing to discuss withdrawal under conditions. Japan guarantees no military facilities on Senkaku. Japan acknowledges Chinese administrative interest without acknowledging sovereignty. Joint development of resources, face saving for China, compromise for Japan. Both sides can claim partial victory. Japan refuses. Senkaku is Japanese territory. Period. No compromise on sovereignty. No acknowledgement of Chinese claims. No joint administration. Negotiations collapse. Occupation continues. Crisis extends. Pressure builds. Mistakes become more likely. Accidents become more probable. War becomes more possible. Nobody wants war. Everybody creating conditions for war. That's tragedy of territorial disputes. That's danger of nationalism. That's cost of pride. At hour 60, exhaustion setting in. Diplomatic efforts stalling. Military posturing continuing. Public pressure mounting. Japanese citizens demanding action. Chinese citizens celebrating occupation. American citizens confused why defending rocks. Politicians feeling heat. Need resolution, need success, need something to show. Both sides looking for exit. Both sides requiring victory. Can't have both. Somebody must compromise. Somebody must accept loss. Nobody willing. So crisis continues. So standoff extends. So danger persists. That's modern conflict, not decisive battles, not clear victories. Just prolonged tensions that exhaust everyone and resolve nothing and create permanent instability. At hour 72, Chinese forces withdraw. Suddenly, surprisingly, without announcement, just leave, load onto ships, depart, gone. Japan celebrates, claims diplomatic victory, claims Chinese backed down under pressure, claims alliance worked. China claims training exercise completed successfully, claims demonstrated capability. Claims proved point. Both sides declare victory. Both sides claim success. Neither acknowledges loss. That's face-saving. That's diplomacy. That's how crises end when nobody can win and nobody can lose. Ambiguous resolution. Unsatisfying conclusion. But war avoided. That's important. That's success, even if feels incomplete. Final lesson: occupations are easier than permanence. China occupied 72 hours, long enough to demonstrate capability, not long enough to make permanent. Smart calculation, strategic choice, reversible aggression, tests opponents, gathers intelligence, proves point, then withdraws, before costs exceed benefits. That's sophisticated strategy. That's calculated risk. That's modern territorial dispute management. Expect repetition. Next year, maybe. Different timing, different duration, same pattern, same strategy, same crisis. Because underlying disputes remain unresolved, because sovereignty questions persist, because nationalism requires defending rocks. So pattern repeats, crisis recurs, Navy force covers again, because Senkaku matters despite being worthless, because alliances are tested repeatedly, because credibility requires constant demonstration. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay with us. Quiz answer from earlier. What should response be to occupation? Answer is B, naval blockade. Immediate strikes risk escalation. Diplomatic solution alone emboldens. Blockade pressures without shooting. Cuts supply makes occupation unsustainable, forces withdrawal eventually. That's what Japan attempted with submarines. That's what worked. That's smart strategy. Patience wins when violence risks catastrophe. Subscribe to Navy Force for crises that almost became wars. Like this video if you believe alliances matter even over worthless rocks. Comment below. Should China face consequences for occupation? Should Japan have military capability for independent response? What would you do as Carrier Strike Group Commander during 72-hour standoff? Your perspective shapes debate. Your engagement demands accountability. Your voice matters when nations play games with sovereignty and alliances test limits and crises become normal. Because normal crises become normal wars eventually. Because accepted provocations become accepted aggressions. Because unopposed actions become repeated actions, we remind you, we show you, we demand you care. That's mission, that's purpose, that's Navy force.